Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Michael here, ChiCityYaker. Appreciate you guys for joining me in this kind of product review. It's probably been one of the most asked questions about any item that I use for my kayak fishing this year. It's something that I tried out for, let's see, I found them out early spring because I started using them beginning of the year in like March. Still cold out in the southern basin of Lake Michigan for early season spring coho. I put them to work, and I've been using them now for half of the year, a little over half of the year now since we're in July, and I feel like now's the perfect time to share with you my full overview of the RediRig planer and the instant downrigger clip. These are two different products that are made by RediRig here. They're a company out of Ohio, I want to say, near the Lake Erie area. So they're making things for folks that are on big water, for walleye and striped bass. And I discovered these things, and I made the jump, purchased them with my own money, and put them to use. Now the question is whether or not these are the best planers for us out of a kayak. And first, let's talk about the planers themselves. Here's the regular size, like more like the full size, and then they make the mini. And so your mini is going to be good for lighter things you're trolling, maybe smaller cranks. They recommend these for if you're trolling for like crappie, maybe smaller ponds where you don't have a lot of wave or currents. I've tried them and they work well in those conditions. When you're out in bigger bodies of water, if there's a lot of current, if there's waves and all of that stuff, you definitely want to go with the big ones. As you can see here, these are pretty beat up. I mean, I've been using them all year long on Lake Michigan trolling. I've sent this out on my coho rigs with an inline sinker, and I've also used this with lead core. But what I really like about these, all right, is one, it's super light. It's just made out of this very thin but very durable plastic. I'm not sure, if it's ABS plastic or what, but it's very lightweight. On the back side, you have just a few weights here, which helps to stabilize in the water and keep it centered, so it's riding straight in the water. You've got this cone up here, which is actually a styrofoam piece, and this is what helps to keep it afloat and to help it ride over the waves, right? This float right here, the styrofoam right here, is always going to sit up above the water, and this is what helps to keep it riding over those waves. And then with the bright kind of yellow color here, it makes it very visible in the water. One of the things I've noticed, and other people will say about some of the other established brands of planer boards out there, is that when you get into heavy waves and it's moving up and down, sometimes you can lose that visibility of your planer. I don't have a problem keeping my eye on these. These ride the waves really good. I was really surprised at first to kind of see how it handled the big waves, the rollers, and you're down on the roller, and the roller pushes this up and vice versa. So even with you kind of going all these movements, you never lose these out of sight. Also, you don't have the issue where they dive down under the water. It always stays on top. And that for me has been really crucial in maintaining my vision and understanding and knowing where my planer's at at all times. Because I am running a 3-rod setup, I need to have everything spread out properly the way I wanted to have it, and it works out really well. So this thing really, honestly, when you clip it onto your line, is very light. Now, what's unique about this planer board here is that it incorporates their I guess this would be a version of their instant downrigger, which we're going to talk about here after I talk about the planers, because I believe they may have started with the instant downriggers as their primary product. And what this is it allows you to clip the board onto your main line. You'll put your line in between the little rubber gaskets in here, and then it holds it in position. And then when a fish strikes, obviously that pressure from the strike and the fact that it's clipped into this part will release it out of the hold, and then your planer will slide down to your bead. And so you're able to fight the fish, and you don't have to reel in the planer to then hand line it, take it off. Sometimes for folks that can be the point where you'll lose a fish because you have to hand line it. You're trying to you know, especially keep in mind, we're talking about kayak fishing here. You're in limited space, you're taking your rod, you're trying to reach for the line, you're trying to take the board off. It's different when you're on the boat, and if you have somebody on your boat to do that, it's way more manageable, so it's not nearly as big of an issue. But in a kayak, this can be a point where a lot of folks, especially if you're inexperienced or just not, you don't have that mechanic down of having that system to do it, you know, this is a point where you can lose that fish. And so what's great about these is that it has a system where it releases and it'll stay on your line. So you can fight the fish, you can bring it in, you put the fish in your kayak, and then after that you can go ahead and take it off your main line and reset your lines, clip it back on, set it, and that's it. It's really, really simple. And for me, if you guys know, you've been watching the channel for a long time, you know that I am a proponent in the kayak about efficiency and simplicity, right? You got to work with what you got, and you want to maximize your efficiency, maximize everything that you're doing in there. It just increases your productivity out of the kayak, and it helps you to keep things simple. Why complicate things? I have been using these, and you guys have seen them in my videos. I've had numerous comments. Hey, what are those? What are you using? I've told a few people, and the reason I didn't really make it public is because I like to really put a product to use myself personally before I really go off and start telling people about it, because I don't want to speak too early about something that then I discover later on is not good or just wasn't working the way I want to work it. And then I don't want people to think that, you know, well, Michael, you recommended something that didn't really work. Well, no. I'm here now, 6-7 months in, sharing with you my experiences here with the RediRig planer. This thing works exceptionally well. I think out of a kayak, you really can't beat this this planer because it is very light. It's easy. You could chuck these around. The plastic is sturdy. Outside of the color fading from the noses of these, everything else is in place, is doing fine. Nothing's come apart, falling apart. And I put these through heavy use, heavy currents. You've guys seen the videos of me on the rough water days out there, and these things were in there just doing what they're supposed to do. So it really impressed me. It's going to be hard to beat when you look at your planer options to use out of a kayak. You might want to consider these. One thing I do want to point out here that I've noticed that is a little bit of a critique here is that sometimes when you go to open up the gasket, and I'll show you guys here, hopefully this is getting in, I'll probably do a close-up here, but when you open up the gasket, sometimes the two pieces of rubber, after some time of not being used, will kind of get stuck together. And what you have to do is grab the two pieces individually, and you have to twist them a little bit until they kind of just get unconnected from each other. I don't know if it's because of the water maybe in there, but that is one issue that I've run into repeatedly, and once I pop it, then it opens up just fine. But it seems like when you don't use it for some time, and because it's exposed to water, those two pieces of the plastic gasket parts just kind of get a little stuck together, and you gotta just break it free a little bit. Once it's free, then you can open it back up and stick your line in there. The other important thing to note about this is be mindful of what kind of fish you're expecting to catch when you're using these. And the reason I say that is if you are getting into smaller fish, and if you put your line deeper into the catch part, the gasket part in here, all right, the deeper you put that line in between the two gasket parts, it's going to be harder for that line to pull out of. So you're going to want to do this when you have days where you're in more waves, or if you're trolling with something a bit heavier, like a bigger rig behind you, maybe a bigger crankbait, something that has a lot more resistance in the water. You're going to want to put your line in there a bit deeper so it doesn't just pull out prematurely. Now, if you're going to be trolling and you're expecting, like in the early spring, we're catching smaller size coho, right? These are early year coho, you know, 18 to 20 inches, generally kind of like the size. Those fish aren't big enough to pop the planer out of position here if you put the line in there too deep. So you got to be mindful of where you put your line in the gasket area, because the deeper it goes in, the harder or the more pressure it's going to take for it to pop out. And so the closer that you put your line into the edge of the gasket, the easier it's going to be for it to pop out. So keep that in mind. If you're trolling, again, like for example, early season coho, smaller size fish, you might want to put it in there just a little shallower so that it does pop properly when they strike. And then if you're in tougher conditions or trolling with bigger setups, you know, bigger crankbaits or bigger dodgers or flashes, and you're using this thing here, and even with lead core especially, you want to tuck it in there deeper because you don't want the line or the rig that you're trolling with to prematurely pop that planer out of position, and then you got to reel it back in and reset it. That happens. Happens on occasion. It's just kind of, it is what it is, but it's not bad at all. All right, just a little tip there. They make a few different versions, at least 2 versions of the bigger size planer right here. The version I have here is the one that had an LED light, which I will say didn't work the way I thought it would. Part of the issue with this, with the LED up here, was that you had to keep the cap kind of loose to prevent the light from being activated, right? You don't really want it if it's not nighttime, and so I had to kind of back the top off, because this is one of those lighting systems where when you screw it down, right, the closer it gets, it pinches it down and activates the light. So I had to kind of unscrew the cap a little bit so that the light wouldn't be turned on. And then one of the issues I had was one of the caps was lost in the water. And so that's how we've gotten into the point where there's nothing in here. It's just an empty shell for the bottom part. So that's one thing about the design I wasn't too happy about. The other thing I will say about this design is too, is that a lot of times, even now, is that your line will get tangled over this back part right here. And I'll try and turn it around and explain how this works. So once you put your line in here and you're letting it off, your line will kind of come over at an angle across the back end of it, right? It will come across this back end of it, and when you go to set it, your line will actually wrap around the backside right here, and that is not what you want to have happen there, because that's a potential issue. So a lot of times when I have to let these out, I have to kind of finagle it a little bit with my line in the water to get the line to come up over so that it's on the proper side of the planer, so that it doesn't catch onto this back part. So that's something that, and the design wise, I'd like to see kind of changed or altered. Of course, if you don't want to deal with this, then just get the non-LED light version of the planer and you have no issues. So this is just a critique of this version of it that has the LED light, that it will hang up on there, and then because of the fact that you have to screw it down and turn it on, if you don't want that light on, you have to back off the top part, it'll fall off, or at least it fell off for me. So both of mine, I just took the lights off and are using it like this. And I think I pretty much will probably get the original version that doesn't have the LED part on here, so that I don't have to deal with the line wrapping around this backside. So that's one thing about it. I also mentioned about the gasket, which can stick a little bit. It's nothing huge. You just got to be mindful that sometimes before you go to use it, just wiggle it around a little bit, free it up, and then it'll open up as it's supposed to. The rest of the design itself has been really solid. When you look at it and you feel it, you're gonna be like, really, this is it? It feels super light. You would think like, there's no way this is gonna work. There's no way this is gonna hold up, you know, over repeated use. I'm here to tell you that it does, and it will. Let's move on to the smaller version here. These are the mini versions. This is gonna be really good for what they say is gonna be like your crappie fishing. What I found is I really like these in my inland lakes when I was trolling for walleye. I like putting these on here because I'm trolling smaller crankbaits and stuff, getting down to mid-water column depth. It's not a huge body of water, so I'm not worried about waves. There's not a current in there. I found these to be really, really good. I like these. Now, they pull a little bit differently because they're smaller size. They'll drift back a bit further than say the bigger size planers will. So I've used these trolling with bandits, flickers, reef runners, and it does it really well. And this might be something I'll probably use again in the fall for the king run, because I don't really need these big ones out here. These little ones will get out there good enough. You just let the line out, it's gonna get yourself out there a ways from you. And of course, the great thing about this is you can go on a lighter setup. Like, you can definitely use these with a spinning rod, a lighter line applications, because this is very little, you know, on your line, right? It's not a lot of weight, and I don't have a scale here, a digital scale to weigh it, but it's pretty light. So you can use lighter tackle, still use the mini planer to get your stuff out on the side for whatever kind of trolling applications you're looking to do. So these work just as well. Still have a little bit of the issue with the sticking of the 2 rubber parts here. Now finally, we're going to talk about the instant downrigger here. I have one of my videos talking about torpedo weights, and I kind of feature them a little bit. I didn't talk about them specifically, but these were in that video, and I'll link to that right above here, so you can check out the torpedo diver kind of walkthrough. But this is the one thing here that has been like a godsend. This little device right here is the instant downrigger. What this does, it allows you to take any kind of weight that you may have and turn it into, as the name suggests, an instant downrigger onto your line. If you have a round ball weight, if you have a torpedo weight, if you have any kind of weight, right? Teardrop sinkers, bell sinkers, pyramid sinkers, it don't matter. Whatever kind of weight you have, and if you want to get down deep, this is a tool to allow you to do it in a very intuitive way. So the way you use this is you're going to put your main line through the front clip, all right? When you look at this little device, you've got the plastic on the back, you've got one clip at the very front, you have a middle clip, and you're always going to put your main line through the front clip, all right? So you're going to run your main line in there, and then you're going to close it, and now that's secured onto your main line. So if we take this one right here, this is the setup so far, all right? You've got the weight on the middle snap, you've got your main line going through the first snap, and then what you're going to do is put your fingers in there, you're going to open up the gasket, you're going to take some of your line and put it in between the two gasket parts, let it go, and now this is affixed to your main line, right? It's sitting on there. And what happens is, again, when a fish strikes, all right, and a bigger fish hits, it's going to pop it out of place, and this is going to slide down your main line all the way to the bead. This has made my life trolling, especially in the summertime now, as we are deeper water with these bigger 16 ounces or 12 ounce divers and whatnot, a lot easier to do. I could put any size weight on my line and not have to pull them off anymore. I can let them sit on the line, they pop off, they roll down to the bead, and then I can just keep on fighting the fish and bring them in and then take that off later. What this little device has done is just really just simplified the process of fishing with weights on the kayak here. So now that I gave you guys the breakdown, the run through, my overview, my review, I have to say in closing that these are fantastic options for the kayak. Sure, you have some other established, planers out there in the market that you could use. Folks do use them. But man, I really feel that these were inadvertently made for us out of a kayak. So if you want to, check out the products on their website, linked down below. And check this out, this is what we're gonna do. RediRig is kind enough to hook it up to get some of you guys out in the community a chance to get the planer boards for yourselves. We're gonna give away 2 sets to 2 individuals. So thank you to RediRig for making this happen here. We're gonna do one right here on the channel. So make sure you're subscribed, like the video, and then comment down below what species of fish you're going to be using the RediRig planers to catch. Let me know down below, and that'll enter you in for your chance to win the RediRig. They're going to send it out to you once I select the winner, and I'll randomly pick someone from the comments that is subscribed to the channel. All right, and then we'll do another one on my Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram at ChiCityYaker, make sure you do, and we'll do another giveaway over there. Make sure you are following, and I'll make a post with the information on how to enter and to win. Very, very simple way to do it. No cost to you guys, and it is a really cool way to just get your hands on one of these. And again, thank you to RediRig. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you guys found this very, very useful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments as well. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.